In the automotive world, there are street cars and there are race cars. And then there's this, the Acura NSX. A super performing street car developed with a clear intent to go racing. So when it came time to enter the GT3 ranks, transforming the NSX into a pure racer didn't force Acura back to the drawing board. In fact, the NSX GT3 Evo's space frame and engine internals are identical to those of the road-going car, meaning they're also built in the same factories. Better yet, you can also purchase both. So despite its comfy interior and compliant chassis, the Acura NSX shares a lot more with its race-winning counterpart than you might think. Let's see how they stack up. In GT3 racing, our starts are rolling, so launching from a stop isn't exactly a priority. As you can imagine, the NSX's extra torque, 9-speed dual-clutch transmission, all-wheel drive system, and launch control will definitely give it the upper hand in a drag race. So launching the NSX GT3 Evo is quite a bit different than the Acura NSX street car. What I have to do, since I have a hand-operated clutch, is grab that clutch, flip it into gear, and then build up the revs all the way to red line. Once I'm on the rev limiter, I dump this clutch and away we go. So launching the NSX road car is definitely a lot easier than launching the NSX GT3 Evo. All I need to do is pop it into track mode, put my left foot on the brake, build up the revs. The NSX I'm driving today is fitted with the optional carbon ceramic brake package, which can much better withstand the intense heat of racing conditions. Unfortunately, due to GT3 rules, the Evo has to make do with conventional iron brake rotors. Then again, the GT3 does receive a little more direct airflow to its brakes through these cooling ducts. We have slightly larger front rotors, slightly smaller rear rotors. That size difference really doesn't mean anything. These brakes don't need to last a very long time. Those do. So despite not having the same carbon ceramic brake package that we have in the NSX road car, what we do have in the NSX GT3 Evo is motorsport tuned ABS, and it just provides so much stopping power, so much confidence, even on these iron rotors. Very much like the road car, we have so much control over the platform, so much control over the balance of the car. But it's really a shame that, as per GT3 regulations, we're not allowed to have those carbon ceramic brakes. But even despite that, Acura has done a phenomenal job of creating a really, really confidence-inspiring package. When you put that, along with this bespoke suspension system all together, what we have is a package that's unbelievably difficult to beat. So on this particular NSX, we have the optional carbon ceramic brake package, and this thing just stops exceptionally well. But where it really comes into its own is the way you can modulate pressure and the way you can manipulate the platform of the car on corner entry. It makes anybody look like a superhero. It's unbelievable to drive with. Also, what's working underneath us the whole time here is this hybrid electric system. And that additional stopping power, that additional engine braking that we receive from the hybrid unit just helps so much with that initial deceleration. So much control given to the driver. Driving a race car, especially at race speed, isn't particularly easy. If it was, I'd be out of a job. From the heat, the noise, not being able to use the bathroom, driving a race car is a physical thing. But as far as GT3 cars go, the NSX is an unbelievably forgiving package to drive. I can be so aggressive with this car. I can attack the corners so hard compared to other cars. It's so drivable, just phenomenal. Another huge component of the balance and the drivability of this car is this super handling all-wheel drive system. We have an electric motor in each front wheel that's assisting not just in additional horsepower and torque off the corner, but also so much in terms of the control and the balance. It's just as easy, just as gratifying for me to drive as it is for the everyday driver. All right, so here's the moment that we've all been waiting for. We're going to compare lap times between the NSX Street Car and the NSX GT3 Evo around a racetrack. Now, obviously, the NSX GT3 Evo is going to be a lot faster than any other road car you're ever going to put around a racetrack. But before we dive into just how much faster it is, we're going to take a closer look as to what makes this NSX GT3 Evo so fast and so incredibly efficient around the racetrack. The NSX GT3's curb weight checks in more than 950 pounds less than that of the road-going NSX. It's what happens when you toss out comfy power-assisted seats, an audio system, air conditioning, airbags, glass, well, basically the entire interior, as well as a slew of additional regulatory components required by anything eligible to wear a license plate. Though the NSX's suspension componentry is on the edge, it still needs to be forgiving enough to soak up potholes, speed bumps, ruts, and generally terrible pavement. On the other hand, the NSX GT3 Evo's bespoke suspension systems are designed exclusively for race circuits. So despite being about as wide as a lane of traffic, what really makes this NSX GT3 Evo faster than its road-going counterpart is aero. It makes about 500% more downforce than the NSX Street Car. 500%. So with that expectation in mind, let's see what that translates to in terms of lap times on the stopwatch. And there we have it, 9.5 seconds, which frankly, comparing a street car to a G, that's not bad. If you can strip everything out of that car, put in a cage, bolt on some aero bits, but you're still not going to end up with something nearly as quick as a GT3 car. It won't be road legal, and you can't take it through the drive-thru anyway. Now that we know about that undeniable DNA link between the GT3 and the NSX street car, we're going to level the playing field the only way that we know how. A Le Mans start.
after a restart.
I also had a question in the chat about the all-female team. They haven't seen them in the IMSA races lately.
I guess I'll take that one. You know, we worked really hard on that program with Jackie Heinricher, and at the I guess it'd be 2019, Caterpillar opted not. It's a big line item for us, and we hope in the future we can get back to it.
Okay. Should we move on to Trent? Trent?
Sure.
Yeah, hey, so I'm Trent Hindman. I have the pleasure of driving the Acura NSX GT3 Evo with Meyer Shank Racing and Racers Edge Motorsports. Meyer Shank more specifically in WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, and then more recently this season doing the SRO GT World Challenge America Championship with Racers Edge Motorsports. You know, I appreciate everybody having me on here and willing to listen to all of us rant a little bit about the racing side of the NSX. It's certainly been a big part of my career over the last 3 years. Mike gave me a pretty incredible opportunity back in 2018. Me being a pretty young, unknown guy in WeatherTech Championship and in GT3 racing in general. Let me compete with his team in all the long distance races back in 2018. So the Rolex 24 at Daytona, where we barely missed out on a win, finished second that day. But Rolex 24 at Daytona, 12 hours of Sebring, and Le Mans in 2018. And then ultimately was able to compete with him full time in 2019 with Mario Farnbacher. We were able to bring home the GTD championship, which was really, really a cool day for not only me and Mario or Mike, but I think the HPD and Acura Motorsports family as a whole. First major championship with the NSX GT3, and I think certainly not the last. So, you know, just a little bit about my experience with the car personally. I've had the chance, as per I'm sure what the video showed that you had previously mentioned there, Miss Purple. I had the chance to spend a lot of time kind of back to back with the NSX GT3 and the NSX street car, this latest generation. Haven't driven the first or second gen. I really like to. I hear nothing but great things about them, but that opportunity hadn't yet presented itself, and I certainly hope it does in the future. But either way, some of the really big takeaways of that day I spent with both cars in Mid-Ohio. We need a hybrid unit on the GT3 car. I think that goes without saying. So Lee, if we can make that happen, that'd be great. I have never felt a car launch nearly as hard as what the NSX street car can. I'm sure some of the folks listening can certainly attest to that. Maybe when they're playing around on the street, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, getting into the odd drag race here and there. That thing in track mode and full launch control is completely absurd. And actually, the video was not false in the sense of how much quicker that car can accelerate 60 miles an hour compared to the GT3. So that's really, really impressive function. Some of the other major items that I noticed with the car too. You have the hybrid power unit, obviously, and it's working in all four corners of the car, but you really don't feel it. I've had some pretty long talks before doing that film with Ted Klaus, who was obviously a big part of the development of the NSX, and Nick Robinson as well, who's a super cool guy. I think you guys heard from him the other day. And Nick really kind of walked me through a lot of the trick stuff they've done electronically, aerodynamically, all that sort with the NSX street car. And there are items working underneath you in that thing when you're driving around the racetrack that, unless one of those guys, hadn't told me about it, I wouldn't have felt it. I mean, it's so seamless and smooth, the way it distributes power, the way it's constantly kind of changing the balance of the car for you throughout a corner. It's really, really special. It's super cool. And I mean, I'd like to think I'm a guy with a decent feel of what's going on underneath them, especially around a racetrack. But the fact that it was that sort of not noticeable, I think is super impressive, and especially for it being a street car, even more impressive. And then the other thing too is just the level of similarity between the NSX GT3 and the street car. I mean, another cool component, being able to sort of activate on NSX events such as this, and some of the folks that I get to come across within HPD or just Honda in general. And there was a really interesting fellow I was able to talk to who works right at PMC in Marysville, and he had kind of walked me through on how the cars are, basically are produced on the same production line, and then one car, the street car, gets shipped off to another corner of the factory, while the chassis for the race car gets shipped off to like HPD and Yas, and then ultimately the Meyer, Shank Racing or Racer's Edge or whatever team it's destined to go to. And just the amount of similarity, or I mean, not similarity, they're the same exact car rolling off the production line, and you certainly feel that being able to back the two cars, even without all the electronic intervention, hybrid unit intervention, all that fun stuff. I thought it was really, really neat that a race car was so similar to its road-going counterpart. I've had the opportunity to do some back-to-back work with other cars like that in the past, and none of them have really come close to that level of similarity. So that was, I think, really telling as to what Acura and Honda are able to do with this platform. So I'm sorry for the rant, but just to round that up a little bit, I'm more than happy to elaborate a little bit more on any of those items, because there were quite a bit. I'm sure there are bits that I am forgetting, but either way, it's an incredible group of people that come behind the race car and the street car. I think that's really what makes the NSX, the overall platform, a very special one.
So we got a couple questions from chat. The first actually isn't a question, but an invitation. Said the NSX, the Gen 1 NSX is the best sports car in the world, Trent. You need to drive one, brother. If you're in South Florida, give Hugh a call, and he will hand you the keys.
Dude, absolutely. Hugh, I might take you up on that. Shelby Blackstock, my co-driver in SRO GT World Challenge this year, believe he had the opportunity to get his hands on first gen NSX. I think it might have been like a 93, really, really early on. And he said it was unreal. And this is after he and I both had the chance to drive, I think 2017, whatever ended up being the pace car for SRO this year. Shelby and I had the opportunity to drive that 1,500 miles all the way from LA to Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. And even after that, he said the first gen was a killer car. So I'll absolutely be taking you up on that for sure.
Well, I will say, I know Hugh personally, and he does not offer the invitation lightly. He will let you drive his car. And he also wanted to make sure you knew that his is heavily modified with 666 wheel horsepower. So
Okay.
it's got some extra.
Push my arm too hard for that. I promise you.
If you want to drive a stock car, you're welcome to mine here in Northern California anytime as well.
Oh, dang. Now
you just had to ask. We also had a question of whether you feel the weight difference between the Street NSX and the GT3 version, since the brakes and electric motors, Street NSX tend to balance out the performance. Well, you get the idea. Do you feel the weight difference?
Yeah, you do. You absolutely do. But that's pretty common amongst all street cars. But that's where actually having the additional power, the hybrid unit, the additional torque that comes with it on the street car makes that transition very seamless. So I'm not sure. I'm really not sure if I'm obsolete in mentioning even the term power to weight ratio. I don't know how many folks really use that anymore. I know it's not a super common term around the racing world, but at least that's the best way I can describe it. The weight differential is more or less made up for in having extra torque and a little bit extra top end power from the hybrid unit. But now that doesn't necessarily change how quickly the car will decelerate, how quickly the car will transition into a corner. Obviously, weight is your biggest factor there, and you do feel it a little bit, but we're comparing a really, really hardcore race car, at least in terms of electronics, horsepower, amount of downforce. It's got carbon fiber everywhere, to a car that you can drive every day on the street.
So this is kind of a question for Michael or Trent. If you could modify the hybrid street NSX in any way you wanted for the racetrack, what changes would you make, specifically with regard to weight savings, or really, I think it's just an open-ended question.
Mike, you want to take the reins on this one?
Well, okay, so I guess I'll talk from my personal experience a little bit. I would like to see a little bit better, tire, I guess, come on the car from what I had originally. But that's minor detail stuff. If you really want to change the car, Trent's right, you got to get some weight out of it. And I don't know the exact right answer because I drive that car. For me, the reason I enjoy it is it can do everything. It can idle like a Civic, or it can race like an NSX race. And I don't want to give either up, to be honest with you. To make it better for the street, to make it better for the actual racetrack, it would take a bit of work, I suppose. Integrating hybrid technology for proper racing is a bit of a challenge, but I don't know. Better tires and some better belts so I don't get hurt if I do something stupid, and that would be about it.
So I think this one's back for Trent. How does the NSX GT3 compare to other race cars that you've driven?
It's, of course I'm going to be biased because, the NSX GT3 has been sort of my life over the last 3 years. It's brought me, to a level of competition and to driving that I never really knew or thought that I'd be able to be a part of. So, of course my answer is going to be it's the best thing since sliced bread. And I absolutely do believe it is. It's my personal favorite GT car that I've ever driven. It's my personal favorite race car I've ever driven. And I think a lot of that has to do with just the sheer amount of time that I've gotten to spend understanding the car and understanding how it works and what it needs to go quickly. But every car, that's not to slander every other car that I've driven. There's always something that those other cars have done well, whether it's decelerate really well, accelerate really well, go through high speed or low speed corners really well. A lot of these other platforms are really, really strong in one thing, but I will say what sets the NSX GT3 apart from a lot of the other platforms that I've had the opportunity to drive on is the fact that it's pretty damn good everywhere. Unless an outside factor comes in, like the all dreaded term BOP, balance of performance, unless you rule that out, I don't think there's another car that's as good across the board in a myriad of different areas of a racetrack than the NSX GT3 is. And as far as I know, I don't think there's any other car that's coming along quite yet that can achieve that sort of level of consistency across an entire race course.
So I got another question. Actually, I also noted that Ed Summers, you have your hand up. If you aren't able to use the chat,
I have a question.
Please go right ahead.
Yeah, this one's for Mike. Mike, I'm a fellow Buckeye, although I'm displaced in Texas right now. I grew up going to Mid-Ohio with my dad for races, and now I'm only about an hour away from COTA, so I've met you at both places. My question for you is, first of all, congratulations on the IndyCar program. It looks like it's moving right along, and you guys are showing some vast improvement over the previous season. Plus, you got a full season, I guess, with it now. But with regards to the prototype, again, congratulations for that as well. Do you have a driver lineup for that yet, or I know that's going to be a tough one because some of these drivers are pretty preoccupied with other programs as well. I can't hear you.
You're muted, Mike.
I got you now. So I appreciate that question. So last Friday we announced AJ Allmendinger as one of the endurance drivers, who is a tortured soul that beats up on Trent all the time physically. Also,
you looked good this weekend.
And then this Friday we will announce our first full-time driver in that car. So that's coming up this Friday. And then the other two the other full-time driver and one more driver for Daytona will be announced in a little bit from now. So it's just slowly trickling out.
And they were one of the cars that was there with us. At that time, the thing sounded like a NASCAR stock car going around the track. So that's how it caught our attention while we were doing some inspections with the FIA. But that car is a little bit being front engine, rear drive, more sedan based than sports car based. I think they had a lot tougher time getting their performance where it needed to be. So they've been running just as long as we have. It's just taken them till now to find the right team and then just really get their technical aspects sorted out. And then of course there's all the drivers and the team owners hate, and something I have to tolerate is balance of performance. So it's basically the series. Well, I can back up a little bit. The GT3 category, when the FIA homologates the cars, they're all sort of in these, they call performance windows for power and downforce. And there's 3 windows, and each car kind of fits within that, in those windows, but in a little bit different way. So the performance of the cars can be slightly different just in the way they make their lap time. And then it's up to the series themselves to do this, what they call BOP, balance of performance, where they set the weight and power. That's basically the levers that the series has to pull. And so they try to get all the cars close. And I think the Lexus guys just struggled quite a bit more than we did to get there. And now they're there, and they're just as fast as anybody, and they have some pretty good driver lineups in the cars right now. So yeah, I mean they're right there with us, but the plan is to beat them, right, Mike? Good driver lineups in the
Absolutely.
cars right now. So
Always.
So yeah, I guess that's where the Lexus deal is, and as far as the competition. So it's really up to the series to try to make all the cars be able to fight it out for the win, and not have one car always in the front and one car always in the back. You want it to come down to the execution of the teams and the drivers. And I think a great example of that was it was supposed to be Watkins Glen 6 hours, ended up being at Road Atlanta, where we're going back to, because the Watkins Glen event couldn't be held. But the MSR guys won that race, and I make fun of the drivers because they never passed anybody on track. It was all the team. So they kept, throughout the 6 hours, they just kept the pit stops. They just kept jumping people on the pit stop. So it was just up to the drivers not to mess it up.
So we have a question.
See Trent smile.
Yeah, thankfully.
It seems Penske has been seeing a great deal of success in the IMSA prototype class recently, with several wins. Could you please talk about the decision process that resulted in the transition of Acura from Penske to MSR and Wayne Taylor Racing?
Lee?
I guess that would be for me to take. But the series changes and the team's desires where they want to go. And I think there, as Mike's already mentioned, there's a long-standing relationship with MSR. Obviously there's not quite as much with Wayne Taylor Racing, but actually, if you look back in history, Wayne Taylor actually drove the original Acura. I think it was called the Spice at the time. Am I correct, Mike?
Yes.
That's when Wayne drove. Yeah, so there actually is some history there, and things change amongst the teams and manufacturers, and where everybody wants to go and what budget levels are available and all that. So that's there's a lot of puzzle pieces that Mike's alluded to before that they all fit together. So just there was a mutual decision to go different ways, and looking towards the future of where everybody was going to go, and that's kind of how it ended up for 2021.
Well, we also had a question of why do the other IMSCA race cars seem to keep targeting and hitting your NSX during the races? It seems kind of unfair.
This is the best question I've been asked today. I wish someone could tell me that. I've asked the race director, at what point do people get to stop hitting the championship leader? And the first one at Mid-Ohio was absolutely intentional and ridiculous at the highest level. The one last weekend was, the Lexus fighting our car really hard in really bad conditions. I don't believe he meant to do it necessarily. The owners of that team texted me all day Sunday and apologized. They don't want to win that way, and I actually believe that. So, this weekend we do fairly well typically at Atlanta anyways. We got 10 hours. It's hard for me to take, because if we'd have just finished where we were running when we got hit each of those races, we'd have a 16-point lead, which is like, to give you an example, Trent won last year with a 21-point lead. And, we're approaching that coming to the end of the year. We'd be kicking their butts. But, this happens sometimes, and there's not a lot we can do about it. So I voiced my displeasure. A little too hard, I voiced my displeasure at Mid-Ohio. I got in some trouble for that. So, performance is everything to us, to you guys. We take it serious, and when someone threatens our car, it affects me. So anyway, that's that.
I like your answer. We also have a question about what will Trent be driving next year with MSR heading to prototypes in 2021, other than Hughes 660.
I believe it's a pink Honda Fit. I think that's correct, right, Trent?
Well, so a little background there. Mr. Whiteman had heard all my rumblings about how much I love the Honda Odyssey. I really do. I think it's great. I got to drive one around VIR really quickly before. It's got the same J35 that you see in the DPI, right? It's got a really good gearbox, low center of gravity, front wheel drive. Not a whole lot of torque steer on that thing. So it was quick around VIR. And I went back to John and you too, Lee. I went back to you guys. I'm like, man, this thing's pretty sweet, And then they came back and said, cool, purple fit it is. So I guess I'll take what I can get. I'm a race car driver, and I guess if it's got 4 wheels, 2 pedals, and a steering wheel, we'll make it work. But no, for me, moving forward, I just want to stay in the Honda Acura family any way I can. I've been here for 3 years so far. I don't want to go anywhere anytime soon. So if that does mean racing a Honda Fit, sign me up. I'm all for it. If it means staying in the NSX GT3, sign me up. I'm all for it. So whenever needs to be done, wherever there's a race to potentially be won, I just want to be there doing it under the Acura Motorsports Honda Performance Development banner.
So I got kind of an open-ended question. What benefits or technology transfer might we as consumers see as a result of the race car R&D? Does this teams see any tech or lessons learned trickling back down into road cars?
Yeah, so this is Lee. So I guess Mike alluded to it, or no, actually Trent, because he was doing all the talking. Mike, you got it on his radio this weekend, right? Yeah. So like Trent alluded to, the space frame itself comes from the PMC factory, but the engine, it comes straight out of the Anna engine plant. So they prep them slightly differently for us, but from an internal standpoint, it's completely the same as a road car. When we started racing the car, We did find a few issues, you know, in the extreme conditions of the endurance, especially the endurance racing stuff. And we have pretty good communication. I personally have contacts at the engine plant that, you know, whenever there's some engine related issue, which is few and far between, usually somebody, you know, knocks one of our cars off the track or something and end up overheating, which, you know, no car likes. But we've, you know, had dialogue back and forth, and we found a couple of things that we've been able to feed back to the guys at an engine plant, and then they've been able to make some corrections to make the road car more robust. And not that, you know, not that there's any issues obviously on the street. I'm getting some feedback there. We've been able to feed back to the guys at an engine plant, and then they've been able to make some corrections to make the road car more robust. And... All right, am I back? Okay.
I've got one thing that's kind of interesting. It's actually the other way around. When we were developing this car early on in 2017, and Lee will remember this, we were struggling to get the power steering, which is a stock unit.
Oh yeah, yeah.
In the race car, we're struggling actually in the race car. We actually reverse infoed it. We had the folks from the factory help us right out at the proving grounds, right up in Marysville, to help us with the steering on the race car. So one of the guys that does a lot of the programming and engineering for the steering rack came out and helped us. And to this day, we still use what we call his maps, steering maps, in our control unit for the power steering unit. And we had several experiences like that when we were really early on in 2017, if you remember, Lee, that the engineers from Marysville really were helpful. It's kind of cool, actually.
Ed,
Yeah,
did you have
so
a
they're
question?
like,
Sorry.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, no. Keep going on this topic. It's a great topic.
No, as Mike did allude to, yeah, it's one of the components that we use straight out of the road car. It actually was not intended to be that way when we started development of the car. They had created a different rack ratio, the guys in Japan that had started the program. And we actually went back to the road car steering rack after doing some testing. But then we had to deal with, you know, some of the electronics and getting the assist maps, because there's obviously, you put the race car, the input loads are a lot higher. So being a electronic rack, it's all programming rather than, you know, changing out a pump or something like that to get different flow rates. So there was quite a bit of work that went into that. We haven't done a whole lot in the last couple of years, but, you know, we found some specific situations, specifically for the rack, actually, like for Japan and Super GT, they run probably the world's stickiest tires on a race car, because it's an open tire. We call it a tire war series, where Bridgestone, Dunlop, and I can't remember who the other one is, Yokohama, in that series. So they can develop their tires rather than like an IMSA or any of the SRO series globally, where we use a spec tire. They can just keep developing their tires in Japan, and they got to the point where they were way over the loads that our steering rack maps that we created. So we ended up having to create special maps just for those guys. You know, we had to take away some things that we thought were desirable as far as feel, just to not overload the rack itself and to allow the guys to you know, steer the car around the racetrack.
So we got a question as to what's the long-term Acura plan for racing. We've seen HPD continue to support IndyCar and IMSA prototypes, but with Honda pulling out of Formula One starting in 22, what is the Acura Honda plan beyond the next several years?
Just keep racing. That's what Acura. I mean, that's Acura Motorsports is. It's been pretty consistent as far as the Acura brand. You know, there was a couple of years when we didn't have an NSX, for example, where it was basically in the touring car ranks, but I don't believe there's any reason. I mean, it's in the DNA of the brand, so I think that's will continue.
If I could, just a second. One of the things that I've really gotten to know is John Ikeda through this process, and he is all about performance. And what you see coming out in the next couple of years, in my opinion, is a lot from him. and his vision and his team's vision of where Acura is going. You look at the new TLX, which I'm definitely getting one of them. And also there's new MDX coming that I haven't seen a lot of. I think you're looking at a long-term performance-oriented company that I'm super proud to be a part of, and I love it. I love the fact that that's woven into the fabric here now, and I really believe John has led that.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Mike, that's the entire reason why the NSX GT3 race car exists, because of the Acura brand in North America. So I don't know if John was the guy in charge at the time. Obviously, he was up there, but I don't know if he was head of Acura at the time. But that was the, that was the impetus for even having a GT3 car, was because the Acura brand in North America. It was very, very important to show the car. Or Honda as it is in Europe, racing against the 488s and those type of competitors and beating them.
So we have a question as whether HPD has engineers embedded in the MSR IndyCar or IMSA teams.
Yes. Yes.
Well, not exactly embedded, I guess. I mean, we have support guys that come in. They don't live at your shop unless you got somebody tied up in the back that I'm not aware of. But yeah, we have support engineers that come to all the IMSA races and IndyCar. That's a different crew. The IndyCar guys, we call our HPD race team guys. So, but we have a sports car and an IndyCar group. But they work very closely with them, and even Mike's engineers talk with our engineers, our performance guys, chassis guys, engine guys, whatever. So there's open lines of communication and with the teams.
So do you think that Honda and Acura really needs to put a V8 in one of their passenger cars?
Well, I did, but my vote doesn't count, unfortunately. But we got to stay relevant to the world that we live in today. Is the right answer and the correct answer. So whatever that looks like in the future, I'm not sure, but I'm sure we'll be all over it, whatever the case will be.
And I don't mean like.
Yeah, I guess related to the GT3 car again. We have the smallest displacement engine, V6 twin turbo, and pretty sure the guys with the big, normally aspirated engines were looking at the rear of the car last year, right, Trent? So.
They were for a decent amount of time. So as far as I know, the 3.5 liter twin turbo formula is working out pretty well for us.
How about an NSX in Le Mans in the near future? We'd love to support seeing an NSX race at Le Mans.
I would too.
Yeah, that'd be great. But you have to talk to the ACO about that. So currently the GT3 cars are not eligible to race at Le Mans, and the category that is GT is they call GTE in Europe. We call it a GTLM in IMSA. It's the same cars, but they're essentially prototypes that look like road cars. So on a budget standpoint, and even over like a DPI, has been racing here in North America, the budget for a GTE car to develop it and race it is more. So it's hard to justify essentially for one race the expenditure when like many other manufacturers have told us, when we were first looking at the GT3 category, you get everything you need, and it's much more tied to the actual road car with the GT3 car than a GTE car. It's until the ACO, I guess, changes their mind. I think it'd be like the concert ticket that nobody could get if they would open it up to GT3 cars, but there's some French politics at play between the ACO and the FIA and SRO and all that. So nothing we can control as manufacturers.
Someone like to hear your opinions on the new C8. Do you think that's a threat to all supercars? Corvette?
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it?
Yeah, I've not. Is that a new car that came out?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
I've seen a couple of them on the road.
Okay.
No, I don't really have any comments. I mean, they all stand on their own merits, and everybody has their preferences. So, I mean, I personally, I don't own one, or I've driven the NSX, and I haven't driven the C8, but you know, they're in the past, those type of cars are, you know, it's maybe the difference between a scalpel and a hammer. So it depends what your preference is. So I don't necessarily think it's a threat any more than any of the previous generation Corvettes would have been considered a threat to like an R8 or something. So I think there's room for everybody and their preferences.
So, question: will the race teams and/or Honda expand into other motorsports? Maybe Formula E?
Guess we can't comment on any sort of future thing one way or the other.
And going back to the Le Mans topic, there's a question from Chad as to didn't the new ACO reg allow for the new DPI to run Le Mans?
So
Yeah,
you know,
well, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Lee. I'm sorry.
No, you can expand on this, Mike. But yeah, that's the idea behind it, and it's been these type of discussions have happened. This seems to be the closest between, again, the ACO and IMSA in this case. So it seems like there's some acknowledgement internationally that the DPI class, obviously, it's, you know, if you look at what's been running in LMP1, again, a mega budget category, and manufacturers don't really have the appetite for spending that kind of money on a whole. You know, we'd rather have the competition and the relevance to the road car products.
Great.
Mike, I don't know if you have any other comments, DPI versus
Yeah,
or something like that, if where that stands.
Yeah, I think the intention is there for everybody. We're just not quite over the finish line on the rules set yet. We've all publicly said that we would like to do it when the LMDH category comes up, but have not committed to it because, you know, we're simply not going to go there, whether it's from Acura's standpoint or MSR sponsors. We're not going unless we have a real shot at winning overall, and it's political. It's tough. So we're as close as we've ever been. I can promise you that, to being able to do this, though, with regard to rules. Not quite there yet, and we're watching it very closely, and we'll see where it evolves.
So, do you have any advice or tips for kids that want to become race car drivers, and maybe advice for parents of those said kids?
Trent's probably
like a Trent question.
Yeah.
Let's ask Trent's mom.
Yeah. No, I hope other parents would root for other kids at the go-kart track. No. Look, I was fortunate, A, to be able to start in racing early, B, be able to go karting and win some karting championships, some scholarships to get into single-seater racing and go single-seater racing for a little bit. But then along with that, I was also very fortunate. I mean, my parents literally sold their home to give me my first opportunity in GT racing. And I just, I don't know how many folks would be willing to do that. I know if I were in the same position, I don't know if I would have done the same thing. So I am incredibly lucky in that sense that I was willing to have a family that was willing to sacrifice as much as they did in order to give me an opportunity in life in general. What I can say though is, as much as finance and politics and all that other stuff that can come up in conversations about motor racing, as often as it could really come up, at the end of the day, it's still all about winning. It's still all about going quick and being able to win races and win championships. And I'm kind of a certified knuckle dragger. So I've been fortunate to be with some really good groups of people, some teams, some really good co-drivers to be able to bounce ideas off of, improve with, raise the bar with, raise my own bar with, and ultimately achieve those results and those season end goals. But the biggest thing is, well, at least to me, the biggest thing that got me, I'd say, to this point now is just seeing how hard other folks work in order to achieve their results in this business, whether it be finding the sponsorship to be able to do it, or whether it be just flat out doing what they need to do in order to improve their own game behind the wheel. There's always somebody in this business that's going to outwork you and have a more hardcore mentality on how to get things done in and out of the race car, on and off the racetrack. So just seeing that from a young age, having two parents that pushed me hard, but also gave me opportunity. I think that was really some of the biggest factors that got me into this point. But I mean, even still, I'm a relatively young guy. I'd like to think there's still plenty more for a guy like me to do. And I don't think that process, whether it's me or whether it's a guy like Mario Farnbacher or even guys like Ricky Taylor and Dane Cameron, I don't think that process ever stops for them either. So for younger drivers, for newer folks getting into the sport, it's just sort of one of those forever activities that you're never good enough or too good at, if that makes sense.
Yep. So continuing the questions for Trent, what is your favorite track that you've driven or raced on so far?
Oh man, I don't think I've ever gotten off a racetrack and said that was awful. Any day driving a race car around a racetrack, as tough as those days might be at times, it's still a pretty damn good day. So there's definitely no complaints in that sense. Me being from New Jersey, judge me as you will. I know, me being from New Jersey, though, I'm only about 3 hours away from Watkins Glen. To me, that is the best, hands down. Unbelievable place. I mean, it's a racetrack that sits literally on top of a mountain. Not that you're worried about stunning views while you're driving a race car, but it is a pretty cool landscape to be going through at 100 or so miles an hour. But the biggest thing is it's super high speed. And with a GT3 car like the NSX, which is really, really good in high speed corners, you're going to get pretty tired pretty quick. The G loads are pretty wild. It's just an awesome racetrack. Huge elevation change, huge compressions and rises and falls, whatever. It's awesome racetrack.
Great answer. Just want to check in on time. I got a couple more questions. Are we locked into 4 o'clock?
We can take some more, so that's fine.
Yeah, I have about 10 minutes for me, but yeah, fine.
Okay. So there's a question for Michael and Trent each. Who do you think is the best driver in the WeatherTech IMSA series today in any class, and why? And Trent, if you don't answer yourself, I don't know.
I'm definitely not going to answer myself. Here's the thing. There, just like how I talked a little bit before about, GT3 cars or race cars in general, every one being good at something, some being good at more than one thing, some being only good at one thing. I think there's a pretty big range of drivers like that too. Anybody in the WeatherTech Championship is pretty damn good, and that's across all categories, all driver lineups. They're all strong. They're all really good. At least to me, a couple of guys that I've looked up to for a really long time and who I've known for a really long time, Ricky and Jordan Taylor. Wayne had co-owned a USF 2000 team that I drove for, I think about 8 years ago now. And those guys were there. They were coaching us young drivers. They were legitimately there to help us. So to me, having guys like that who are so good on top of their game as it is right now, yet they were willing to mentor a young guy like me that long ago, and they still give me advice if and when I ask them these days. Those two guys are really cool. And then obviously a shout out to my brother Mario Farnbacher. He's my brother. He's one of my best friends, and we had the opportunity to work with each other full time last year, And I really got to see up close, what makes him such a strong driver, and a guy who I certainly strive to have as much success of.
Great.
Trent, I think it's the CrossFit, right? That's what does it. Is that right?
Yeah, what, the CrossFit from Mario or the CrossFit from me? I'll be one of
Well,
those.
So how does the NSX do in the rain compared to other cars in GTD?
I would have told you we dominate, except for last weekend we didn't. And typically we do well. We know exactly why. We did something with the setup for that track in the dry, which is a real oddball track. Talking about Charlotte now, the Roval, and we did something in the dry that did not, transpose to when it goes wet, and it really hurt our drivers. And that has nothing to do with our drivers at all. I mean, we were able to kind of skitter through it, but typically, like if you watched Mario the last 5 laps at Road America earlier this year in the rain, it's unstoppable. It's literally unstoppable. This time, unfortunately, and I give credit a lot to Lee and his guys at HBD. Our controls, our driver aids, our forward and side bike traction controls are better than almost everybody's, and that helps a lot.
So what is the cornering capability of the NSX GT3 car in G's?
What is it, Trent?
I think Lee would have more of a familiar sense, but I know, like, let's take Watkins Glen, for example. I think we're anywhere in the region, like peak, close to 3, but generally we're hanging around, a little over 2 to 2.5 sustained, which for a just under 3,000 pound GT car is pretty absurd, and you start to feel it when you're driving. So it's not slow by any means, I'll tell you that.
Do the driving dynamics really vary significantly from the NSX to other cars?
At least from a driving perspective, there's always a nuanced item that one car will prefer over the other, at least from what I find. But at the end of the day, if it's got 3 pedals or 2 pedals now in the case of most GT3 cars, 2 pedals and a steering wheel, it's up to us drivers to sort it out. And I think it's easier to overanalyze the differences in driving that's needed from car to car than it is to just jump in and try to get a good feel for it, do what you know how to do.
So I got a question as to when will you unveil the new Acura MSR prototype?
Soon. I'm just trying to get the all the sponsors and marketing partners up on the same page, and we hope to have something pretty cool to look at very soon.
And any possible addition to the IndyCar side to pair Harvey?
Yes. We're working on it.
Okay.
So that rolls through the list of questions that I saw from chat. If I missed one, please chime in. I didn't intentionally miss any of the questions. Tried to get everything covered. No one's chiming in, so.
Okay. So thank you so much to Mike and Lee and Trent for sharing all of these behind the scenes stories and taking questions from our NSXCA club members. Really appreciate your time. So thanks for that. I'd like to give a quick shout out before we close out this session to all of the wonderful sponsors and partners that have helped to make this year's 2020 Virtual NSXPO a rousing success, we believe. Obviously, Acura, Honda Performance Development, Meyer Shank Racing, Cedar Ridge Fabrication, Chin Track Days, Common Fibers, Euro Boutique, Haggerty, Lap of the World, the NSX Club of Japan, the NSXPO 2021 Portland team, NSX E-Repair, Real Time Racing, Science of Speed, and Expel. And then I'd also like to finally give a shout out on behalf of the Virtual NSXPO team comprised of Warren Woodcocks, Dan Murphy, John Komar, Mark Scott, Ira Leventhal, and myself. We really want to thank all of you all of the attendees who helped to make this event the first one that we've ever had virtually, hopefully illuminating and fun. And hope to see everyone in Portland, Oregon next year for NSXPO 2021. So thank you again.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thanks,
guys.
Chat
Rest of the
windows
season.
lighting up with thanks. They really appreciate you guys taking the time.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan.
Hey guys, I'm still waiting for Alan to get in touch with me so I could pay for my auction stuff. I know, like I spoke to RJ last night, and Alan has called him. I've exchanged emails. I don't know.
Let's go ahead and stop the recording.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I stopped on my side.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, now we can, if there's some club business, we can handle that.
We'll chase you down. Alan's working through the list.
Yes.
He is. Okay, no worries. He has my phone number, and we've sent personal emails.
As a leader and event organizer,
just remind him
you want to show up prepared on event day so everyone has fun, goes home
you
safe,
guys were
and
wonderful.
can't wait for your next
Fantastic
event.
This whole thing
Motorsport
was.
Reg makes organizing awesome
I
events
will see you
easier,
out there
so you don't lose track of what brings you here in the
Person
first
out.
place. The thrill of the event.
Hey, Renee, we've got a European.
Membership license management platform built specifically for clubs, racetracks, and sanctioning bodies like yours. Because you're unique, everything can be customized to collect exactly the information you need. With automatic pricing based on date and status, including membership, discounts, and bundles, you'll never double check if someone paid the right amount. On event day, electronic waivers and mobile check-in reduces staffing requirements and keeps the lines moving to give attendees more time with friends. On the fly, you're able to reach people before, during, and after events with handy email, text message, and push notifications. After the event, survey your participants for feedback and use detailed reports to close the books. And if you have extra room, Motorsport Reg promotes your event to an audience of more than 1 million enthusiasts. With no effort on your part, it adds on average 3.1% more entries to your events. Plus, MSR's full-time attendees. As a matter of fact, they've helped more than 1,300 clubs, racetracks, and sanctioning bodies hold more than 50,000 awesome events. To learn more or schedule your customized demo, give us a call or drop us an email.
Hello, Virtual NSXPO and future YouTube audience. I'm Richard.
And I'm Liz, and this is our 1992 NSX.
There are 287 others like it, but this one is ours. It is no garage queen or museum piece. It currently has over 287,000 miles on the odometer and has driven laps around 21 different racetracks to date.
Together, we've driven to every NSXPO since 2015, and we were really looking forward to going to Portland this year, but 2020 happened, so here we are, coming to you from the foothills of the Smoky Mountains rather than in the Cascades. We will definitely miss our friends and NSX Club family, but we're happy to get to connect with you with this online edition.
We're honored to be able to contribute to this year's Virtual NSXPO, and we hope you'll enjoy hearing about the past, present, and future of our own NSX experience and what we're calling Rescue to Racetracks, the story
so far
of the Lap of the World NSX.
It all started in 2008 with a 26-year-old Richard. In his defense, he was left unsupervised.
So yeah, you could say buying this car was really the first adventure. After fawning over the NSX in my dad's car magazines and later in video games, I found myself in 2008 with a stable job, a garage, and some extra cash. After a protracted search, I found my NSX on eBay, flew one way to New York, and paid $16,000 for a clean title, running, driving, manual NSX. Back when that was the thing you could do. Granted, for that low price, I then drove the roughly 800 miles back home with the electrical systems failing around me as I went. I lost the speedometer in Jersey, the dash lights in Pennsylvania, and the wired-in radar detector refused to turn off as I approached Virginia. This was on top of probably an even dozen active diagnostic codes and a transaxle in the dreaded snap ring range. Suffice to say, it had been a bit neglected. However, this NSX has been nothing if not resilient, and so after 12 hours in a state of continual mild pucker, I made it back to Tennessee without assistance and got to work. It took 2 years. 2 years of troubleshooting, diagnostics, wrenching, shop visits, and plenty of stupid questions on the NSX Prime forum. But after those 2 years, in addition to VIP status at Harper Acura's parts desk, I had what most would consider a fully capable Acura NSX. And as we all know, that's a hell of a car. One I wanted to experience to the fullest. August of 2010 saw my NSX on the track for the first time at Talladega Grand Prix Raceway, or Little Talladega in Alabama. That successful outing led to another, and another, and another, and before long I had graduated NASA's HPDE ladder and was granted a time trial license. Now, I don't have anywhere near the competition resume of some of the other presenters at this virtual expo, nor do I consider myself a quote-unquote racing driver, even though I have done some wheel-to-wheel events in other cars. That said, over a couple of seasons, this NSX and I did manage to podium a few time trial events, including one win. Unfortunately, subsequent rule changes and a reluctance on my part to ruin the car for road use conspired to put a damper on my competitive aspirations. However, when one door closes, as they say, this change of priorities coincided with my decision to attend my first NSXPO in 2013. And that event in Raleigh, North Carolina really sold me on making NSXPO a fixture on my calendar, and although I promptly then missed the 2014 edition, I promise I had a good excuse.
He was putting a ring on it. At the top of a castle ruin overlooking the Nürburgring. So, you could say I knew what I was getting into long before we had our wedding bands made from a broken NSX connecting rod. Not ours, but I think we still owe that guy a bottle opener. And in fact, our first together was a weekend with Valentine's Day, I might add. However, my first NSXPO was the 2015 event in Palm Springs. Richard will say he talked me into it, but it really didn't take much convincing, and I certainly have no regrets. I enjoyed the amazing desert scenery, the pageantry of the car show at the Air Museum, the spectacle of the banquet, and the excitement of the track day at Thermal. At the track, Richard was instructing, and I get bored easily, so I volunteered to help, which is how I met Jim, aka Cause, who put me in charge of loaning out helmets for people who didn't bring their own. Which, incidentally, is how I met Peter Cunningham, who quite politely allowed me to explain to him how a helmet should fit and hold his phone as collateral to give it back to me afterwards. Only later did I make the connection between him and the number 42 real-time racing NSX on display in the paddock. Through that long weekend, we met so many people who we still call friends, and we always look forward to seeing. Each year is a little like a class reunion, but, one where you actually like a majority of the people attending. I've enjoyed every expo I've been to, either as a guest, an unofficial volunteer, or more recently, a volunteer official enough to have a radio. That's when you know you've made it, folks. Volunteering does mean some work, but it's work put back into the club and the community that we both greatly enjoy. Enough that we organized our own smaller scale event in the Southeast region, an NSXpedition through the Smoky Mountains in 2019, an event that we really hope to host again, once we can do so responsibly. Since 2015, we have visited Orlando, Elkhart Lake, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C., driving our NSX to and from each event and around a different regional racetrack each time. Somewhere in that process, we realized we both really enjoyed the adventure of taking road trips to new places. Richard enjoyed learning and driving each new racetrack, and at some point in there, something clicked. And this is how we ended up on YouTube and why you should smash that.
Whoa. We don't do that on this channel. She's right, though, about why we ended up on YouTube. That model of using an exciting car to experience different parts of the country while driving different racetracks appealed to me on many levels. I love to travel, I'm a geography nerd, a history geek, a driving enthusiast, and although I'm an off-screen introvert, I enjoy having a creative outlet like making videos. That led me to rebrand and relaunch my YouTube channel as Lap of the World, where we are attempting to flip the script on the Top Gear trope of driving all of the cars around one track and talking about the cars, to instead drive one car around all of the tracks and talk about the tracks. Or for the younger generations, I'm basically playing racetrack Pokemon. Gotta drive them all. The journey to drive an NSX around as many road courses as I can across the country and in success around the world is going to be a long burn. To date, this car has been around Little Talladega, Carolina Motorsports Park, Virginia International, Road Atlanta, Nashville Superspeedway, Sebring, Barber, High Plains, Thermal Club, Charlotte's Roval, Road America, Atlanta Motorsports Park, Dominion Raceway, Thunderhill, Corvette Museum, NC Car, Memphis International, Summit Point, The Firm, Waterford Hills, and most recently the driving range at Dakota County Technical College. But there are plenty more to come with something like 130 road courses in North America alone. I'm more worried about running out of time to drive them than running out of tracks to drive. What I'm not worried about is our NSX's ability to carry the torch for a long time to come. It might be strange to consider an NSX as a practical track car, but in reality, while they are no Integra or S2000 in that respect, most consumables are still readily available and relatively inexpensive. It has healthy aftermarket support, as evidenced by the many vendors and sponsors supporting this event and the community at large. And at least if left stockish, they will apparently run forever, as the 200,000 mile club really isn't that exclusive anymore. Precision crafted performance, it seems, isn't just a marketing slogan. You buy any generation of NSX, of course, because you want the car.
But you keep it for 12 years because of the community that grows around it.
We hope you've enjoyed hearing about our own NSX's journey from rescue to racetracks and how it's facilitated so many awesome experiences and connected us with so many amazing people.
Thanks for watching, and thank you to the NSX Club for the opportunity to share our story with this amazing car.
And if you do want to follow the continued journey of this particular NSX, Liz, I won't stop you this time.
Sure. If you want to follow the continued journey of this NSX, we invite you to subscribe to Lap of the World on YouTube or follow us on Instagram.
We hope you enjoy the rest of your Virtual NSXPO 2020. And on behalf of our son Gabe, who's behind the camera, I'm Richard.
And I'm Liz.
And we will see you all in the next video, if not out at the track.
Or in Portland next year.
When the finish line calls, we answer. Hit the road with insurance protection from Hagerty. Whether you drive a built racer, sports car, or exotic, and save an average of $264. Get a quote today at Hagerty.com.
Most people don't know that the original first track event held by Chin Motorsports was actually an NSXCA club event. It was in August of 1999 at Sebring, Florida, and we had about 10 to 12 NSXs show up. So the largest track company in the United States actually started out as an NSX Club event.
Some people play golf on weekends. Some people go boating. Some people make laps. We provide the opportunity for sports car enthusiasts to drive their cars on track for fun. What do you think of using your car as a toy instead of a tool? We provide advanced driver training that is open to drivers just like you. If you enjoy high-performance driving, we've got a track event for you.
They advertise more track time, and that is absolutely true. The time that we get to spend on the track here compared to other organizations I've done in the past is exponentially higher.
One of the things that all of our drivers love is they can bounce around all the tracks, not just in the southeast, northeast and out west as well. And they can always get that same chin experience, that same consistency, and focus on safety.
And now here's your chance to drive your sports car at a great racetrack with Chin Track Days. Visit our website online at chintrackdays.com. That's your portal to advanced driving at the track.
Hi, this is Vincent Howard, Treasurer of the Florida NSX Club. We want to welcome you all to NSXPO 2020. Sorry we could not be there in person. Just a quick note, Zanardi number 17 finally making its appearance. So hopefully next year we get together and see you guys in person.
And this is Wei Shin, the president of the NSX Club of America Florida chapter. I want to say hi to everybody as well. We hope you guys are having a great time, and we plan to be there in 2021. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Hello everybody, this is Nabil from Orlando, Florida. NSX is my passion. I love working on these cars. I own one myself. If you have any problems, give me a call. We'll take care of it for you. Thanks.
Hey guys, Shad Huntley here with Driving Ambition CompTech. CompTech's kind of new here again. We've kind of regained control of the trademark names and the rights to make all of the parts. So I just wanted to give a little shop tour here of our new facility. Moved into it the middle of the summer. We're still trying to get everything put away and stuff cleaned up and put back together. Here's kind of the entryway with a kind of one of our old display engines, some of the old GTP Camel Lights trophies from back in the day, some of our newer trophies with Kip Olson and Igor and Ryland Hazelton for some of our SCCA cars. Got some of the signboards here from some of the different cars we've done over the years. There's some of Kip's car. Here's some of the original yellow wide body car we built for Acura back in the day. Here's a little sign poster we made to kind of celebrate Kip Olson's national championship here a few years ago. They also gave us this kind of cool flag that goes along with it. In the first part of the room here we're going to go in, which is where we're doing most of the parts assembly. Here's some CompTech NSX supercharger kits getting assembled for customers. Kit's very similar to the way it's been for years and years, just like you could have gone into the factory and bought your, or gone into the dealer and bought your car with a supercharger kit on it. We've made a fair amount of little upgrades to it, but still keeping its carb legality, its smog legality for the guys in California and New York and some of the places that's really an appropriate thing. Got parts and pieces here for a lot of things. We can do a tuner supercharger kit that uses a bigger blower. We've got some of the cam gears here we're doing for the race engines. We've got some of the S2000 parts here that we're getting ready to start making some of the S2000 supercharger kits again. Some various parts, pieces. We'll walk out in here, kind of the engine room, sub-assembly area. Got a fuel injector test bench here for checking fuel injectors. We've got a race engine here from Kip Olson's car. This is the primary engine, which actually ended up being the backup for last year's national championship. We're getting ready to pull it apart to put some new pistons in it because we're changing the compression ratio on it a little bit. Here's kind of one of the funnest, neatest projects we have going right now. This is the engine and drivetrain out of a 2017 NSX. Customer brought it in. He had an issue with the head gaskets, and the head gaskets were blown. Well, after doing a little bit of research, we kind of found out that pretty much no one's really even torn one of these motors much apart. The block itself was in good shape, but the heads were actually warped. So what we've done here is kind of a trick we learned on the older race engines. We machined the heads. We machined the heads flat again, and then we have some head gaskets being custom made that are exactly the amount thicker that we machined off of the heads. Something else we've also done with all the old race engines is we have ARP studs and nuts and washers we torque the heads down with. Well, since no one had made anything for these, we actually commissioned ARP, and they built us custom studs and nuts and washers for this thing. This is they just came in this week. We have one we're checking the links on, and then I just installed them on this side here to check and make sure we didn't have any clearance issues on any of the cams or rockers or valve train. Pretty neat engine. The block and heads are cast by Cosworth. They're, like I said, pretty interesting engine. Learning a lot about the new NSX this way. I don't think you can learn more about a car except tear it completely apart. So that's kind of what we're doing here with this. So hopefully here the head gaskets will be next week, and we can kind of get this all torqued back together and reassembled. Here is the head bolts. We had to buy 10 car sets to kind of make it cost effective. So hopefully we'll see more of these in the future. Here's some of the transmissions. This is one from Igor's race car. We had a custom straight cut gears with dog engagement made for it, so it goes into the stock transmission case. So that's what that transmission is. We're freshening up the motor in his car just before the last race, so pistons for it should come in next week, and hopefully we'll get it back together for the last race the end of the month. Here's the turbos and intake manifold off of that 2017 NSX. Here is the spare Hollinger sequential transaxle for Kip's NSX that it's rated at 580 foot-pounds of torque and endurance trim. We have one in his car right now. This is the spare that we gotta prep. We gotta prep all the clutch lines and throwout bearing. I've got a different pneumatic actuator we need to make a bracket for so we can have a complete spare. It's kind of a parts, pieces, that sort of stuff. The shop's a little bare right now, which means that we've gotten customer cars out of here, which is good. So here is Igor's NSX waiting for to get mated back up with its engine. Hopefully that'll happen here, like I said, next 2 weeks. Got a customer NSX in here for a clutch job. Doing just a stock OEM clutch in it. Nothing fancy. We've got our S2000 road race car on the rack here. We're getting it prepped for that same event at Thunder Hill here in a few weeks. We had to change the rear end gear, just prep everything, nut and bolt everything, change the diff fluid, check gear oil. We've got over here the chassis dyno. We've got kind of a funny project on here we do for a local shop here, Hague Performance, that deals with Mazda rotaries. So we're in here doing the tuning for him on this particular car. We've got something else kind of in the corner over here. We got one of our, kind of my old friends here. This is the 1992 Acura Spice that we ran in the IMSA series for many, many years. This one is in, the new owner of it is a gentleman by the name of Taz Harvey, and Taz is a local Acura or a Honda Mazda dealer here near us. This car he bought to Vintage Race. It needs a fuel cell in it, so we've rebuilt the one in Acura's car here last summer for them, and we need a fuel cell for this one, so we're getting that one in. There's our little kind of Honda mini truck that we use for pit support, track support at the car races. Here's kind of some of my pet projects. This is a MGB serial number 2, something I inherited from my father when my father passed away. My dad's original Model A that he bought when he was 14. When he did pass away, my mom had it finished, restored. Then a couple of my little road race car, my little bug-eyed Sprite Mini is torn apart here. It's got its engine up at our friends at 7 Enterprises getting freshened up, and so hopefully that'll be back here just after the first of the year. We can get it going. Here are some of the parts and pieces to that 2017 NSX. You have to disassemble it quite a ways to get it to even get to the engine. You even got to remove the seats and interior just to get to the battery pack to shut things down. So anyway, just kind of a quick tour. Hopefully it wasn't too boring and didn't say too many times. So anyway, hopefully you can check in soon. Thanks. Bye.
In the automotive world, there are street cars and there are race cars. And then there's this, the Acura NSX. A super performing street car developed with a clear intent to go racing. So when it came time to enter the GT3 ranks, transforming the NSX into a pure racer didn't force Acura back to the drawing board. In fact, the NSX GT3 Evo's space frame and engine internals are identical to those of the road-going car, meaning they're also built in the same factories. Better yet, you can also purchase both. So despite its comfy interior and compliant chassis, the Acura NSX shares a lot more with its race-winning counterpart than you might think. Let's see how they stack up. In GT3 racing, our starts are rolling, so launching from a stop isn't exactly a priority. As you can imagine, the NSX's extra torque, 9-speed dual clutch transmission, all-wheel drive system, and launch control will definitely give it the upper hand in a drag race. So launching the NSX GT3 Evo is quite a bit different than the Acura NSX street car. What I have to do, since I have a hand-operated clutch, is grab that clutch, flip it into gear, and then build up the revs all the way to red line. Once I'm on the rev limiter, I dump this clutch and away we go. So launching the NSX road car is definitely a lot easier than launching the NSX GT3 Evo. All I need to do is pop it into track mode, put my left foot on the brake, build up the revs. The NSX I'm driving today is fitted with the optional carbon ceramic brake package, which can much better withstand the intense heat of racing conditions. Unfortunately, due to GT3 rules, the Evo has to make do with conventional iron brake rotors. Then again, the GT3 does receive a little more direct airflow to its brakes through these cooling ducts. We have slightly larger front rotors, slightly smaller rear rotors. That size difference really doesn't mean anything. These brakes don't need to last a very long time. Those do. So despite not having the same carbon ceramic brake package that we have in the NSX road car, what we do have in the NSX GT3 Evo is motorsport tuned ABS, and it just provides so much stopping power, so much confidence, even on these iron rotors. Very much like the road car, we have so much control over the platform, so much control over the balance of the car. But it's really a shame that, as per GT3 regulations, we're not allowed to have those carbon ceramic brakes. But even despite that, Acura has done a phenomenal job of creating a really, really confidence-inspiring package. When you put that, along with this bespoke suspension system all together, what we have is a package that's unbelievably difficult to beat. So on this particular NSX, we have the optional carbon ceramic brake package, and this thing just stops exceptionally well. But where it really comes into its own is the way you can modulate pressure and the way you can manipulate the platform of the car on corner entry. It makes anybody look like a superhero. It's unbelievable to drive with. Also, what's working underneath us the whole time here is this hybrid electric system. And that additional stopping power, that additional engine braking that we receive from the hybrid unit just helps so much with that initial deceleration. So much control given to the driver. Driving a race car, especially at race speed, isn't particularly easy. If it was, I'd be out of a job. From the heat, the noise, not being able to use the bathroom, driving a race car is a physical thing. But as far as GT3 cars go, the NSX is an unbelievably forgiving package to drive. I can be so aggressive with this car. I can attack the corners so hard compared to other cars. It's so drivable, just phenomenal. Another huge component of the balance and the drivability of this car is this super handling all-wheel drive system. We have an electric motor in each front wheel that's assisting not just in additional horsepower and torque off the corner, but also so much in terms of the control and the balance. It's just as easy, just as gratifying for me to drive as it is for the everyday driver. All right, so here's the moment that we've all been waiting for. We're going to compare lap times between the NSX Street Car and the NSX GT3 Evo around a racetrack. Now, obviously, the NSX GT3 Evo is going to be a lot faster than any other road car you're ever going to put around a racetrack. But before we dive into just how much faster it is, we're going to take a closer look as to what makes this NSX GT3 Evo so fast and so incredibly efficient around the racetrack. The NSX GT3's curb weight checks in more than 950 pounds less than that of the road-going NSX. It's what happens when you toss out comfy power-assisted seats, an audio system, air conditioning, airbags, glass, well, basically the entire interior, as well as a slew of additional regulatory components required by anything eligible to wear a license plate. Though the NSX's suspension componentry is undoubtedly cutting edge, it still needs to be forgiving enough to soak up potholes, speed bumps, ruts, and generally terrible pavement. On the other hand, the NSX GT3 Evo's bespoke suspension systems are designed exclusively for race circuits. So despite being about as wide as a lane of traffic, what really makes this NSX GT3 Evo faster than its road-going counterpart is aero. It makes about 500% more downforce than the NSX street car. 500%. So with that expectation in mind, let's see what that translates to in terms of lap times on the stopwatch. And there we have it, 9.5 seconds, which frankly, comparing a street car to a GT3 car, that's not bad at all. Now, of course, if you really want to, you can strip everything out of that car, put in a cage, bolt on some aero bits, but you're still not gonna end up with something nearly as quick as a GT3 car. It won't be road legal, and you can't take it through the drive-thru anyway. Now that we know about that undeniable DNA link between the GT3 and the NSX street car, we're gonna level the playing field the only way that we know how. A Le Mans start.
Hey all, Chris from Science of Speed. So when Science of Speed had the opportunity to design a supercharger system for the first generation NSX, we brought nearly 20 years of experience not only with the NSX, but also supercharger systems that have been available for the car. So today, I'm going to introduce you to that system. First, we're going to talk a little bit about the design. Next, we're going to see it actually in action here at Science of Speed in our dyno booth. And lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about how the kit is going to be offered. This is the first supercharger system for the NSX to be designed completely in CAD with computational fluid dynamics testing applied and using other modern technology like 3D scanning and 3D printing to allow us to move through the conceptual, beta, and production phases of development. This was an ambitious project for the team here at Science of Speed, and although a large investment for the company, we knew this was an exceptional opportunity to take everything we saw as needing improvement in prior products and produce the best engineered system using this modern technology. So that modern technology has allowed us to really step through the development phase of the product. We're doing all of our initial performance testing on this 1995 Midnight Pearl NSX. This NSX has those production-ready designs of the inlet and intake manifold that we designed and tested through CFD analysis. But instead of having to wait for the casted aluminum components, we've actually 3D printed the inlet and intake manifolds using a fiber-reinforced nylon material. That allows us to start on the performance and tuning while the aluminum production components are completed. This NSX has a number of sensors we've added to monitor temperature and pressures in the system of this test car. So you're going to see a lot more wires and uncovered fuel injectors than the production system will have. However, very prominently, you can see a key component to the Science of Speed supercharger system, the Twin Vortice Series or TVS 1900 supercharger. Although this supercharger is much larger than superchargers used in other systems, with a clever manifold design, we're able to maintain the same height as smaller 1.6 liter and 1.7 liter supercharger systems used by other manufacturers. In fact, we've actually been able to decrease the height while having increased efficiency and mass airflow compared to our older 2.1 liter supercharger kit. Not only have we been able to use this larger supercharger and maintain the height of other systems, but we've also been able to take advantage of a key feature of the TVS 1900, an internal bypass valve. See, when adding an intercooler, other systems have to add the intercooler on top of the manifold. This creates a limitation as far as how thick the core can be, only about an inch, due to the height restriction of the rear glass. With the TVS design, we've been able to integrate the optional intercooler with more than a 2-inch thickness core with a 0 impact on height. One of the best things about the TVS supercharger being an OEM design is that it's exceptionally quiet, so your NSX still sounds like an NSX. The system has built-in expandability, including the ability to add the intercooler like we discussed, but also an inlet manifold design that allows both a factory throttle body to be used, as well as larger 75mm throttle bodies, which significantly improve performance. So with dyno testing complete, we now have some preliminary performance numbers to share. At 6 psi, the system produced about 360 wheel horsepower, and at 9 psi, over 390 horsepower. Now, this performance was generated without an intercooler. We'll have those results to share soon. However, what we were really impressed with is inlet temperatures. With the TVS system, the inlet temperatures, even without an intercooler, were 20 to 30 degrees cooler than we normally see from other systems. Initially, we'll be introducing the supercharger system in 2 trims, Tuner and Stage 2. The Tuner system allows customers to use their existing fuel and engine management systems. This system is capable of over 100 to 175 horsepower gains with intercooling. The Stage 2 system includes a fuel system and engine management system from Science of Speed, and is also capable of 100 to 175 horsepower gains with intercooling. In development now is our Stage 1 system. This will fit in between the Tuner and Stage 2 system in price, and allows 80 to 100 horsepower gains with no tuning required. We'll be offering this supercharger system for sale shortly, and for more information, please visit our website at scienceofspeed.com.
Hello everyone, my name is Wen, and I'm part of the planning committee for NSXPO 2021 in Portland. Although 2020 was a bust, we have a fun event planned for next year, and we hope that you can join us. See you next summer.
Howdy y'all, welcome to the beautiful Pacific Northwest. My name's Ira, and I'm one of the people that's spearheading NSXPO for next year, 2021. Obviously, 2020 has been a pretty strange year, so we're all excited to see everybody in Oregon next summer.
everybody, it's Tyson. I'm enjoying being part of the NSXPO Planning Committee. I'm helping coordinate a little bit with our friends and partners at Acura Corporate, so definitely look forward to seeing you all in Portland next year.